Hello and welcome to Angry Andy Reviews, and this is my review for episodes 1 and 2 of Alien Earth.
Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews.
Angry Andy. Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews.
Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews.
Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews. Angry Andy Reviews.
Don't make me destroy you.
So, Alien Earth is the long gestating TV show set in the Alien universe. It is the first time in the near 50-year history of the Alien franchise that we have been treated to a TV show based around the Alien characters, the Xenomorphs, and that universe itself. Somewhat surprising, you might think. I mean, we've had sequels, prequels, spin-offs, some really duff entries across the entire history of this franchise, and yet here we are. And it's with a certain amount of trepidation that I went into these opening 2 episodes of this, I believe it's 8-part series, series 1 that is anyway, wondering, is it all going to be worth it? What are we going to have to suffer with through this one? The previous movies have been uneven, that has to be said. Romulus was okay, it was almost back to basics if you like, but there were a few bits and pieces that didn't really work for me in that one. Suffice to say, this, and I'll be very, very honest and say that I am completely surprised that the first 2 episodes of this series are actually really, really good. It seems to be very well written, the characters are compelling, there's interesting dynamics going on across the board. We're not just talking about the central characters here, we're talking about some of the peripheral characters as well, the people in charge of these corporations that are in this show, and it's the wider ideas as well. And obviously you have the Xenomorphs absolutely causing carnage in these opening 2 episodes to great success, and there's other little bits and pieces as well, other little creatures that were teased in the teaser trailers and all that really make a mark in these early episodes, and hopefully we'll see even more. Plot wise, this show doesn't waste any time at all. We are almost immediately thrown into this situation. We are shown almost a carbon copy opening from the 70s movie that Ridley Scott directed, the original Alien movie. It's almost a carbon copy, shot for shot, opening of this spaceship, this science exploration ship owned by Weyland-Yutani. And we see the crew waking up, we see them going about the day, eating lunch, eating breakfast. There's a bit of a tense moment between them and a synthetic who turns out to be a cyborg on the ship. And that sets the tone immediately for what's going to come. This show is all about synthetics, cybernetics, cyborgs. The opening word crawl, if you like, tells us this about the quest for immortality. And that is what underpins the entire opening 2 episodes of this show, amongst the carnage and the terror and the chaos. It's an interesting idea. I was, again, a little bit cautious, and I'm still unsure, because every single Alien project seems to have synthetics causing mischief and mayhem within the movies themselves, within the projects. Here, there is that fleck of freshness coming through. Whether it continues that way or whether it becomes predictable, who knows? We'll have to see how the next 6 episodes go. But for the moment, there's some interesting dynamics going on here, and it is that overriding element of this quest for immortality. I think we got it very briefly in Alien Romulus as well. That seems to be the most interesting aspect of this, running alongside, like I said, the carnage and the terror of the Xenomorph and these other alien creatures that are popping up. But like I said, this show just gets on with it straight away. The cyborg on the ship absolutely ruins the rest of the crew. He unleashes all of the creatures on board, and the ship crashes onto planet Earth, and it crashes into a city that is owned by Prodigy, which is this powerhouse technological conglomerate. It seems like corporations seem to have taken over cities and run cities, and they're basically running the show, and this crash lands in this city, and they immediately want to take control of the ship, lock it down, and take whatever's on board whilst they're going in under the guise of trying to do search and rescue. It's interesting how this young entrepreneur, this young businessman who we're told straight away is the youngest ever trillionaire to have come to power on Earth. His name is a bit weird. He's called Boy Cavalier. And somehow he's just gathered all this wealth and millions and trillions of dollars, and he is spearheading this idea for immortality. His fascination absolutely takes him to this ship, and he wants to have whatever it is that Whale and Yutani have secured and brought back to Earth. He wants it for himself, and then that's creating this interesting sort of side story as well. You know, war against one corporation between another. Like I said, we've never heard of Prodigy before. Whether that means something going forward, who knows? I think it's worth noting that this series itself is set 2 years before the original Alien movie, so whatever happens here must have some kind of direct impact on, you know, where this story goes, you know, with regards to Alien and how Whale and Yutani tries to recoup whatever losses they obtain here or whatever damage they sustain here. I think that aspect is intriguing. I think it's going to be important going forward to see how that fits in, whether they do something drastic that changes the original Alien film. I hope they don't. I hope they, you know, keep that as it is. But rather than change anything, just enhance it. We'll have to see how that goes in the coming episodes, maybe the coming seasons. Who knows? But it's interesting that there's a lot of things going on, a lot of different aspects in play here. Obviously, we have to see what changes, especially with the synthetics, that leads them to create Ash instead. Who knows? There's a great many things going on in these opening 2 episodes. Like I said, a lot of intriguing ideas, a lot of premises that we'll have to wait and see whether they land. But it is horrifically entertaining, I have to say. It's worthwhile saying that it is exceedingly well crafted in terms of the way it's edited and shot. There's weird, tense sort of fade in and fade out with certain characters when they say certain things or when they do certain things. It creates this unnerving sense of dread throughout. There's people smiling, and then the camera sort of fades away slowly into this dark and mechanical environment. It's really weird how certain shots are done like that. The whole thing does feel claustrophobic. Is it a little bit too clean in places? It does look like that. But I think this is why they've tried to set it within, you know, an Earth environment. A lot of this seems to take place so far within the crashed alien ship and then this massive double skyscraper that the ship has crashed into. So I think they're trying to get around certain things with that, you know, in terms of how things looked in the 70s. Like I said, the opening elements of the show do pay, you know, a lot of homage, a lot of nods to the original Alien movie, and that technological level that's displayed in that movie is carried forward into this. So it's interesting to see sort of like the opposite sides of what they're trying to show here with new stuff, whereas, you know, with the previous stuff as well, the previous technology that we've seen before. They're not trying to overdo anything, not trying to undo anything either. I think it's worthwhile noting as well that the opening first 2 episodes seem to have a lot of heart for them as well, which is something I really didn't expect. I was kind of expecting just potentially just a guns blazing kind of show. You know, how do we gain people's attention? Well, I know, let's just have Marines versus aliens, and that wouldn't have been such a bad thing in itself. But this show has already laid the cards out with its confidence to play with a level of heart. There's a deeper thing going on here in terms of family. So the central character in this show, called Wendy, she is a synthetic being, but prior to that, and we see very early on in the episode, she is a terminally ill young girl whose mind is placed in the body of this synthetic being. From there, she still has all her core memories of when she was growing up. And during the first 2 episodes, we learn more and more about her family. We learn more about her desire to find her brother as well. And when she sees him in amongst the crash, he's acting basically as a medic, trying to help people and get them out of it, whilst also trying to get out the company as well, by the looks of it, which never goes well. Again, we saw that in Alien Romulus. But as soon as she sees him on this CCTV feed, she immediately becomes centrally focused on trying to get to him and trying to save him. There's these other synthetic children as well, and they are still children even though they're in adult bodies. all these other synthetic children are sort of moving on from their previous lives, but they still harken back to moments from when they were growing up. So there is this weird sort of, it's almost playing like a poignant loss for these children. They've lost their youth, but they still have their lives. It's strange and it's clever. It's almost like they've been forced to grow up immediately, and while some of them can be a bit icky, I think it's playing that really well. And what I mean by icky is there's a few moments, and especially in the second episode, when they do things which are laughable for what would be adult characters to do, but this show turns on its head, and it's children, basically. It's child characters in adult bodies being forced into this scenario to basically gather all this information from this crashed ship and lock it down. So it's interesting in that regard. There's also a lot of allegories to, like I said, to the idea of immortality and the quest for immortality. Obviously, she is called Wendy, and it's interesting to see that a lot of the kids, a lot of the synthetic children who are now adults, are all named around Peter Pan characters. And this show does not shy away in any way, shape or form from its allegory. There are numerous depictions of Peter Pan within this. The first episode is called Neverland, and we see the original Disney animation film being played on the ceiling when the children are sort of being turned into these synthetic beings. It is literally the idea that nobody ever wants to grow up. There's only one thing that humanity hasn't conquered, and that is to be able to live longer and live forever. They've conquered space, they've conquered interstellar travel, but they are still having to use, cryogenic stasis to go to sleep. I mean, it says, the mission for this science ship owned by Weyland-Yutani has been going for 65 years. Well, whoever sent that ship originally is probably long gone at this point. So it's interesting to see that this is another aspect to the Alien franchise they're trying to draw in, that the search for these creatures, the search for the Xenomorphs and whatever power they hold, is aligned with this hope and desire to live forever, which is why they create synthetic beings, why they create cyborgs. So it's going to be interesting, I think, see how this runs along over the course of the next few episodes in this season, to see how much more is uncovered with that. I think, again, we got brief mentions of that in Alien Romulus. I think when Ash's character is brought back, spoiler, when Ash's character is brought back around in that, he talks about this quest for Earth's humanity and all of this. So I think that in itself is an interesting aspect for me. Earth, the humanity as it is, even though they've conquered space travel, seems to be this stagnant ascendancy race. They literally cannot do anything more. They've mastered space travel, they've mastered all of this, and yet they still pass away. It's almost scary to think about in terms of now, the amount of technology that we've rushed ahead with in our current time frame, and yet we're still riddled by disease, poverty, and lack of clean water. It's baffling, and yet those fundamental problems, again, as we saw in Alien Romulus, underpin right the way through this franchise. So I think even though Alien Romulus is set between Alien and Aliens, there's a lot of parallels between that film, this show, and then Alien and Aliens as well. I think we can safely say at this point, Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, we can fuck them off. We don't even need to think about them at this point. And again, the Alien vs Predator movies as well. But so far, we haven't seen anything that would sort of link this to Prometheus, but I'm going to assume we will do again because we saw in Alien Romulus. I think the central characters overall are very interesting so far, like I said, and it's going to be intriguing to see how we move forward with them, especially this boy who would be king, as you like, the king of Neverland who wants to live forever. I think that's going to be intriguing to see what happens to him. He's already clearly upset Weyland-Yutani within the second episode. And then when we look at the Xenomorph as well itself, I mean, I've hardly talked about the Xenomorph so far, but when the Xenomorph is on screen, it's compelling, it's scary, it's fucking ultra-violent as well. If you were looking for ultra-violence in this, you were going to get it. A lot of stuff happens off screen, but you do see there's one moment in particular in the second episode which is hilarious. It's brilliant. Absolutely loved it. And then we do see the aftermath of the carnage. And like I said, there are other moments in this episode where we see these other created aliens for this show, you know, to give it a bit more depth. There's one little creature, fucking terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I'm not going to spoil it, even though I've been spoiling all the way through this episode, but suffice to say, it looks like it reanimates corpses. What the fuck? But there you go. We'll leave that one there. I mean, there's a lot of different characters in this thing. I mean, Timothy Oliphant is playing an interesting character. He's quite clearly a synthetic himself, or a cyborg, one of those. Like I said, there is a distinction between synthetics and cyborgs that I'm not really quite sure of at this point, and hopefully we'll get a bit more going forward. That might be me. I might have just missed something, but there's a lot of new premises, like I said, in these first two episodes, which you think is you know, a lot to comprehend. But this show gets on with it so far. It is getting on with it. The first two episodes go through at breakneck pace. There's no faffing around. There's no unnecessary dialogue. Everything seems to be to the point, as necessary, as and when required, which is great for us, you know, if we're wanting to come in and watch something. And just when we think, oh, well, where is the Xenomorph now? There's little flecks. We see a tail rise up into the ceiling. We see a bit of drivel. We see, you know, marks of scratches on the wall. All sorts. There's much more going on here, you know, in terms of the Xenomorph than the show's currently letting on. And then towards the back end of episode 2, and especially, we see some eggs, so we know what that fucking means, don't we? I think it's safe to say there's going to be a lot more carnage coming forward with this series than what we've already seen so far, which I think is good news, because we have seen a lot of fucking carnage already. But there you go. I'm intrigued. I was nervous and apprehensive about going into this show, purely because, you know, it's always a difficult thing when we have a movie making TV shows. We've seen it before. We've seen it with the Marvel TV shows and Star Wars TV shows, that they ebb away and they don't have the thrust or the dynamic, you know, within them. When it's such a backwards thing in a show, you'd imagine they should have, you know, much more time frame to really explore things and do crazy things. This show so far seems to look like it's doing that. So I think we can cross our fingers. Still a bit of tentative apprehension going forward, but so far, so good, I think. And I'm going to leave the review there. Let me know what your thoughts are for the opening first two episodes of Alien Earth. I've only spoiled a few bits and pieces. There's a lot going on, like I said, in these first two episodes. So I will be looking through the rest of the series as it comes and as it plays out. But for now, I'm going to leave this review there. So like I said, please do leave a comment. What are your thoughts on the first two episodes of Alien Earth? What are your hopes going forward? Personally, I don't want to see any fucking cameos, if I'm being quite honest with you. Let this show play to its own tune. Let this show play to its own cause. Let it make its own music. Let it make its own horror and terror. Let's make something memorable, and I hope it does. So that's the one thing for me. I don't want to see any fucking cameos. I just want to see the show play out as it is. I think it's strong enough so far that we don't need anything like that. The glory and the franchise history as it is that we've seen the Xenomorph absolutely tearing the shit out of people. Belting. Fabulous. Let's keep going. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this review, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more reviews like this. Like I said, I will be going through this series as it plays out on Disney Plus every Wednesday. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.